Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's January 13th, 2026. Very glad you're with us this afternoon. Please note this event is being recorded. The recording will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For everybody who's on Zoom, please feel free to put in your contact information. LinkedIn is all about connecting with other people. This is a great opportunity to connect with other people who are on the call today. Put in your name, position you're looking for. Give us your LinkedIn address, your email address. Give us 2 or 3 target companies we may be able to help you with. And if you have any contacts at companies that you could help somebody else who's on the call, please let us know those also. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I usually have copies with me. Since 2007, I've led the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. That group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader landed a job. And I'll tell you about our very interesting program we have coming up this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT crew. Don't wait until you have an interview to practice your interviewing now. Practice early, practice often is your motto. For more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com. Well, we have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn. They rotate through on a monthly basis. Today, our speaker is Kurt VandeMotter. He's a retained search executive at Linked Executive Search, and he's going to talk about how he finds you on LinkedIn. So Happy New Year to Kurt, and it's all yours.
Well, thanks. Let's see, I think I'm on video, right? There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and Happy New Year. I'm glad to be here today. I'm glad to be with everybody. Um, I think I generally know why everybody's here. It's because you're actively looking for a new job or a new role, and what a great way to kick off the year than to talk about LinkedIn and other strategic ideas and suggestions that you can use to help accelerate your search. Um, the first thing I want to clear is number one is that I'll probably say it a couple of times, but because I've seen more and more people now kind of fishing in the unemployed sector, meaning that they are offering, to help you find a job, help you rewrite your resume, help you do this and that and the other thing. And some of these services can cost in the upwards of 10 or more $1,000 to engage. And I just want to just put it out there that there's really nobody that can get you a job other than yourself. And it doesn't mean that you can't utilize resources. And that's why Jeff does such an amazing job of pulling great resources together every month to help provide new content and new ideas and suggestions for candidates. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't be out networking. But what I don't want you to do is to go pay somebody an extraordinary amount of money to help you find a job, because you're the one that has to do that lifting and that heavy lifting. Um, and I know it firsthand because during COVID, I took a little bit of a pivot, and I thought that that was going to be, I didn't think companies would ever hire again. And so I took a pivot, and the pivot was to help candidates find jobs. And I charged them a monthly retainer, and we would meet on a weekly basis. And if needed more than that, and the script goes like this: we'd sit down the first meeting, all gung ho, everybody's on the same page, no, everybody knows what's got to be done. And I make it very clear that I cannot get you a job, but I can help you move through the process and help maybe manage it a little bit differently and keep the pace and maybe along the way make some introductions for you, but you're the one that has to do the outreach and make the phone calls and so forth. So week one went really well. Week two, we come together and I'd ask the candidate, so let's start with what we left last week at. And he'd interrupt me and say, well, I got home last Tuesday and my wife decided since I wasn't working that this was a good time to take a vacation. So we went on a cruise for 5 days. I basically would say, okay, well, do you have any questions from last week? If you don't, then this is a really short meeting because you haven't gotten anything done. And I don't have anything new to bring to the table since we last met. So we meet again next Tuesday and start the process. Okay, let's get out the notes. Let's start from where we were the last time. And the candidate would say, well, wait, because I'm not working, my wife has a list of honeydews that are 150 deep. And I spent 8 hours a day going back and forth to Home Depot to get these projects done. And so I haven't gotten any of the work done. And I'm not suggesting that that's every candidate, but that's why it's very difficult is because everybody's got different expectations as it relates to finding a job and what that time frame might look like. So I just want to lay that out there that I'm a free resource. If you've got questions, certainly today's a great time to ask. If you've got questions after this meeting or after this call, feel free to ping me as well. My contact information is in my LinkedIn profile. So the second thing is that and it really is about you is that I'm here for you all today. Okay. And I hope that you brought questions and things that you've got concerns about, or you don't know how to break down this barrier, how to open this door. I'm hoping that you'll bring those forward today because, inherently I have a job. I'm a retained search executive. I help companies hire me to fill difficult jobs. Complete transparency, the recruiting industry is pretty flat these days. And there's not a lot of excitement in this space because there's not a lot of hiring going on. So some of you may be seeing that today. Some of you may have seen a slowdown in jobs, even though the news reports that jobs are up and things are really well. In reality, in executive level and even a little bit below that, companies are really pumping the brakes and taking time and making hires and making those hiring decisions. So I anticipate that it'll change because a lot of the things that we've got as noise in the background, which are AI and tariffs and certainly international uncertainty, some of those things are not going to go away, and they're not going to go away this year. But we've gained to be a little more accustomed to them, and we're a little bit more tolerant to the noise that's going on. So with that said, the industry is slow, and so it's not that it's going to not come back, but companies aren't even, in some cases, aren't even using outside recruiters. I had a call with an individual last week, and he's the chief sales officer, and he said his HR department clearly said that we are not allowed to use recruiters to fill jobs. So, companies are having to do it their own way and so forth, and that leads to other issues. So Jeff is my wingman. If you've got a question, I want you to raise your hand. You don't have to wait until we're on the subject of where we're at. But in general, if there's no questions, Jeff, I'm just going to get started, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in general, I think that one of the things I don't want people to bury their heads in, and Jeff, if you've identified somebody, I don't have an expert that I could push you to, but certainly one subject that I think candidates would be really interested in hearing more about is AI and how AI can help in their searches and what they can do to employ AI tools that will make their search maybe not any easier, but will give them more information.
Well, that just happened, Kurt. That just happens to be Friday's topic at the North Dallas group. So we're going to have an expert on AI come talk about AI in a job search.
Okay, and where is that at? Friday in Dallas.
Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're online, or you can come in person and watch the presentation.
Okay, I would love to come see that just to learn myself. So um, my son is with an organization, and they are developing all kinds of AI tools. And so, there's I think that there are a lot of tools that are available out there that you don't even have to buy. You can probably build yourself if you have if you have the time and maybe a little bit of guidance, and maybe the speaker on Friday, if you since it's available online. I would encourage every one of you to put that on your schedule and see if you can make it, because um, my son, as I said, is in the AI recruiting space. Some of the things that they're doing are to just try to find candidates faster and better. But the bottom line is, and this is what I think is really kind of ironic, is that everything that they do, they come back to the fact that LinkedIn still owns all the data. LinkedIn is the king out there. LinkedIn is the pin that nobody can get around. And so, they change their code every other day in order to try to keep these infringers away from their product. But I think that there are AI tools that can be built very simply to attach to LinkedIn to help you as candidates identify more companies that are hiring, maybe help you get introductions with people quicker and faster than you might be getting them today, um, and giving you kind of an insight what's being done and what's being said out in that LinkedIn world that might be facilitate your search. So those are some of the things that I'm hoping that this executive that speaks on Friday talks about, because um, there's new and better tools that can be added onto LinkedIn to help you accelerate your search. I guess is a way to put it. They're using it in a sales situation where they are using AI, plugging it into LinkedIn to monitor and manage jobs that are open to see if they can't get in touch with hiring managers to see if they would like to use their technology and so forth. So their angle is a little bit different, but the same problem is trying to be solved. As a candidate, you're trying to get introduced to the same people, to get hired, to get on their radar, and at the same time, there are internal recruiters that are trying to find more candidates faster, better. There's stories that I hear these days that in some cases companies are making hires of candidates that they have never met. The first time they meet the candidate is when they show up for work the first day. Everything is done through AI, all the tools, and managers don't even interview candidates now. If that's the case, that's going to come to a screeching halt at some point. But that's how far to the left or far to the right, whatever you. So from a LinkedIn perspective, some really critical things that I don't think have changed over time, but I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable in using and doing what I'm suggesting. And that is to, number one, make sure that your contact information is in your LinkedIn profile. Okay. That should be your email address and a phone number. If you're afraid of putting your phone number out there, that you're going to get a lot of different phone calls from people that you don't want to talk to, then you can use a number from not YouTube, Jeff. What is it?
Google Voice.
A Google phone number that masks and kind of hides what your actual phone number is. The key is that you are at a point right now, if you're actively looking for work, where you want to be reached. When people click on your LinkedIn profile, you want to make it super easy for them to get a hold of you. It's very similar to an email nomenclature. Okay, so or an email signature block. Excuse me. Every one of you should have in your email, the personal emails that you send out, you should have an email signature block, and it's got your name, your phone number, your email address. Doesn't have your address. It might have your LinkedIn profile. And that should be turned on for every email you send and every one you reply to. Okay. Again, you want to make it super easy for people to reach you. And I can't tell you how many times I'm working a search and I've got a candidate. I'm away from my desk. Their resume's on my desk. I've got my laptop, and I don't know where I filed that resume, but bottom line is I'm trying to get a hold of the candidate. I go to their emails and I've got their email, but I don't have in their signature block, I don't have a phone number or an email, or I've got an email address because I can hit reply, but I don't have a phone number. And I want to call this person right now. So I'm then got to find a way to get into the resume, find the phone number, and so forth. So it's all about making sure that you're super easy to get to be reached. So make sure that your contact information is in a signature block, and every email and every reply email you send, that signature block goes to the person you're sending messages to. Same on LinkedIn, your email address and your phone number. A clean picture shouldn't be a picture of you and anybody else. It just needs to be you. It doesn't have to professionally be taken, but make sure it's current. Something within the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years. There's one thing we can't hide, and that's our age. And so we can mask it and we can color it and cover it up for a while, but eventually our age is going to be found. So don't try to mask a photo that's a cartoon or something from the past. Make sure that it's present. Um, and then I think that it's really important that your LinkedIn profile, because everything that we are talking about here, whether it's AI or it's any other, driven as far as how recruiters use LinkedIn, um, it's all about keywords. And so keywords are, again, it may sound like old information and old data, but it's not, because AI does the same thing. It's using and looking for keywords. Okay, and those keywords are words from, if the company, that it's keywords from the application and the job description. And all AI is doing is going in and scraping, taking those priorities, looking for candidates on the internet, LinkedIn, and every other website that they can get their hands on and get into, to try to find candidates that have those keywords. So keywords are absolutely critical to your job search, and they should be nowhere more importantly than in your LinkedIn profile. Okay, so these keywords, people ask me, where do I find keywords? Well, take your take your resume first, and this is a great exercise in getting to know and using a little bit of AI. Is drop your resume, copy and paste it into AI, and ask it to give you all the keywords for your resume. Okay, that's one place to start. Another place to start is to look at jobs that you've applied for. If you're applying for jobs, you've got many job descriptions. Throw those job descriptions in AI and ask it to provide you with a list of the most important keywords. Now, that doesn't mean that you can cut and paste all those keywords into your LinkedIn profile, because some of them you may not do. But it's a really good place to make sure that you've got, revenue management, accounting accountability, whatever the key words are that are in job descriptions. You may have left them off of your resume, and maybe sometimes they should be in your resume, but we want for sure them to be in our LinkedIn profile. Okay. So another great place is to look at job descriptions, look at previous jobs that you've done, look at companies that you've worked with before. Pull up all the information that you can, copy it, throw it into an AI chat GPT, and ask it to give you or sort through what the keywords or what the company is looking for. This is a great way to power up your LinkedIn profile, and I guarantee you it's not a waste of time. Whether you're using AI or not, or whether a company's using AI or not, this is going to get the attention. You're going to get more, you're going to get more impressions, you're going to get more touches, you're going to get more phone calls, because you're giving the customer, the company, the recruiter, the information that they're looking for, and you're giving them an updated, detailed list of some of your responsibilities and some of the work that you've done. Right. Jeff, any questions so far?
Well, yeah, we've got one question. Amanda asked, new for 2026 in using LinkedIn, is it best to save post for better visibility hashtags are not greatly recommended. I'm not sure where you heard that at. I think hashtags are still pretty valuable.
Yeah.
AI written posts are detectable by algorithm and will be treated similar to spam content. And I would think that would be true too.
Right. So I think that I absolutely I think that there's the people that are using the AI tools to do every piece of communication and to write their resume and everything else are going to get caught with their pants down per se at some point. But I think that AI can still provide a lot of great tools and a lot of great resources in streamlining some of your processes. But hashtags, I think, are still very important. AI written posts. Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I use AI in writing posts. Some of the stuff that I've written is certainly been influenced a little bit by AI, meaning that I write the content and then I throw it into AI, and I'm just amazed at how much better they convey my thoughts. It's my thoughts. It's what I want it to say, but the order or the exact content that they use is just profoundly more stronger. So I do use it and then I rewrite it and put my own spin on it. But I use AI for a lot of things. Um, but I'm not a believer that AI can actually do the hiring for a company. And I think that if a lot of CEOs knew the amount of AI that was being used in the hiring process, they'd be amazed. I've got a nephew that is an engineer out of Schlumberger, 21 years, an expat, smart kid, got his master's and his engineering degree from SMU, and he tells me stories about these interviews that he's got, and they're all with AI characters. He's not even talking to a live person, and that may go on sometimes in a company for the first 4 or 5 interviews before he ever meets a hiring manager. Um, I I just can't imagine that we've come to that day that a robot can make hiring decisions. But if it saves money and it reduces headcount, then companies and CEOs are certainly looking to do that any way they can. So I think AI should again can be used for a lot of different things. It can be used for research. If you're looking for, you're in a specific category, and you're trying to find all the companies in a specific market that do that work. You've got a lot of places you can go to find that information, but to use Chat GPT for, just a 30-second, see if I know what I'm talking about, are these the actual companies, to do some of that research for you is a brilliant way to save time and gather information. But every podcast that I listen to, I hear about how the content isn't always accurate. There's a lot of AI that's being used in the contact center world these days, which is customer service. And there are companies that have employed a lot of AI to do that work and to take those calls. And companies are losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's why I'm a little skeptical about how far we can push AI. But certainly, as a candidate, I want you to be comfortable with the tool. I want you to know how to use the tool. I want you to know when is the appropriate time to use the tool, um, and and to make sure you're using it in those tasks that can help save you time, so that you can spend more time face to face. So back to LinkedIn, contact information, keywords, absolutely critical. Um, all the information about your jobs. Some people cut it off after, for the last 20 years. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But you can also use LinkedIn to say earlier in my career, and you can list a couple of other companies. But I would just be just as aggressive as I can as far as using keywords to make sure that those are scattered throughout my LinkedIn profile wherever I can, because no matter what happens in AI, those words are going to get picked up. Um, So, what's everybody finding in the market today? Help me out for a minute. Are you finding that there's a slowdown in careers, people? Or raise your hand. Are there a lot of jobs in your area that you're just not getting interviewed for? What are people finding out there? Anybody got any feedback? Turn your mic on.
Sure, Kurt. I'm happy to share. I have had several interviews. Um, Twice now it's happened to me that there's been some reorg at the company and the role either no longer exists or it's not even what I applied for anymore. Um, I have had some AI bot interviews as well. Those are very strange. And there are jobs. What I'm seeing is that they're higher level jobs. They're not applicable um, to what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for mid level, and I either find they're executive or senior level roles
Right.
that I'm not qualified for.
Okay. But the fact that the companies that you're targeting are hiring is a really good sign, Kelsey. So, sometimes jobs don't get posted right away. Sometimes hiring managers get the opportunity to make some of those decisions. If it's a new role, depending on the size of the company, they don't have to post it within the internal organization first. So you're doing the right things. And I would not be offended by, and I would not be turned off by their more senior roles. I'd still, if I were you, now, if you were in, and I'm making this up, if you're in HR, you wouldn't try to build a lot of relationships with those people that are in sales. But if you're in sales, even though those jobs are not for you exactly, I would still make the reach out and build the relationship and try to be on their radar, so that when that senior job gets filled, we don't know what other jobs are going to fill along the way. And there's nothing better than a hiring manager to say, John, on your first day, here's a couple of resumes. Kelsey, I haven't talked to her directly, but she has been, very good about persistent about following up and staying in touch and wants to learn more about her company. This may be a great person for this specific role that you've got on your team now. So don't always look at it as it's that you're getting a gift from that contact or that making that organization. If it's an organization that you're interested in, and I think this is a good lesson for everybody, then I would start to build relationships a layer above where you're at today, in hopes that those hiring managers, even though they may not have the role today, when they do, you're going to be one of the first people that they reach out to. Okay.
Definitely. Thanks.
So some of those, they're not 911 calls. So what Kelsey might do is she might identify, one of the things we don't know today is whether or not people are going into the office. And that adds to the complexity of job search. So what Kelsey might do is, if she's got a target company that's in Dallas that she's trying to get introductions to, she might use old fashioned snail mail, finding out who the hiring managers are, and not necessarily just sending a resume, but sending a short note that just demonstrates her interest and knowledge of the organization, and that she's considerate about the fact that I've been following your webpage and your organization for the last 5 months, and I haven't seen any roles that have been exactly a match for my skills. But I just want to be on your radar in the event that changes. I want to be one of the first people that you'd consider calling. I say don't send a resume because resumes sometimes do more damage than they do good. And resumes should be kind of your guarded, it's your golden little treasure. And the reason is because what we really want to do is send resumes when we have a job description for what we're applying to. Because in modern time today, we can make modifications to our resume to make sure that it prioritizes the same priorities for the company. So if on the job description, one of the first bullets is revenue management, but that's the fourth bullet on your resume. You may want to move it up to importance and add a little bit more language in that subject. Okay. So there are little tweaks that you might make to your resume that would help make you even a better candidate because your resume more closely mimics what that job description is. Okay. So again, that's why if I was sending notes into a company, I probably wouldn't send just a blanket resume. But if you give them a nice note with your email address and your phone number, and they have any interest, one of the first things they're going to do anyway is go to your LinkedIn profile to see who you are and what you look like. So that's when your LinkedIn profile is so critical to make sure that it then has captured all the keywords and is a tells your story the best it can possibly be said or told. So that's the evolution of where we're at today. So Kelsey, don't stop doing what you're doing there. I think that you're onto the right things, but this is really heavy lifting, right, Jeff? Because even though you've got the company and you maybe know a couple of people within that company, you still have to go sell yourself. And I think that that's one of the most difficult things for people that are starting a search or are not in sales themselves. They may be in HR, they might be in supply chain. I saw somebody's name pop up here that is a supply chain manager. They may be in finance, they may be in a different discipline, and they've never been trained to sell. Well, one of the things I encourage every one of you to do, if that is you, if you're not a salesperson, I encourage you to find a friend, find somebody that you can network with that is, and try to pick up as many little sales tips as you possibly can. Because salespeople know how to sell. They know their numbers. And by that I mean that a real good salesperson knows that they have got to make 100 cold calls to get 5 appointments, and 5 appointments get them 2 face-to-face meetings, and 2 face-to-face meetings generally get them 1 order. They know their numbers down to the digits. Okay. But you as candidates, if you're not a salesperson, you're not disciplined to be a salesperson, you don't know your numbers. You don't know how many phone calls you got to make in order to get a meeting or a face-to-face meeting or an interview or a job offer. And so what I want you to do is align yourself with salespeople that can give you those suggestions. I never, in my sales days, I never asked for an appointment that was longer than 12 to 14 minutes. Okay. And I closed some of my biggest deals by asking if I could come in for 9 minutes and tell them a little bit about what we were doing. I remember making a call on Mary Kay Cosmetics years ago, and went in to see the HR director and sat down. And they had hired an outside search consultant, so I knew that they had a history of doing so, but I wasn't doing business with them. But I quickly learned when I sat down in her office that she was from Michigan. So we had something in common right there because I grew up in Michigan. Um, and then I said, I promised you that I was going to keep this meeting short. Is there anything that you could share with me about, when and how, or do you ever use recruiters? And she said, we only use recruiters when we have hard to fill jobs. And I said, well, you couldn't have teed it up any better for me because that's my mantra is that I help companies fill hard to fill jobs. And then I gave her a couple of examples about those jobs and what I had done and the candidates that I had found and how I solved those problems. And within 9 minutes, I was out of there. And within a day, I got a call back that said that she had 2 jobs she wanted us to fill. So what I'm saying is that from a sales strategy, if you're asking executives for an hour or for 45 minutes and you're doing it's a cold call, you're likely not to get that appointment. But if you were to ask for 12 minutes or you would ask something more creative, you might likely close that call. So salespeople also know that you don't stop calling until the company or the candidate or the person says, no, don't call me back again. Candidates have a real hard time doing that because they feel like they're being intrusive or they're overkilling themselves. But the fact is that when you're onto an organization that's hiring, and they've got a job that's a fit for you, and you've got the experience of what they're looking for, and you've exhausted all your contacts on LinkedIn, and you've exhausted all your personal contacts, and you have to revert to the phone, there's nothing wrong with leaving that person a message 2 or 3 times a week. Understand that these executives are very, very busy people. They're traveling. They're people just like you and I. They get home. They've got home, issues regarding their home. There could have been a leak at the house. The dryer could have broken. Their mother-in-law may be sick. Their child just got a D in political science, and they're a sophomore in college, and they're having a meltdown. And there's a million things that go on in people's lives that prevent them from calling candidates or calling somebody back right away. But I promise, if you do it in a kind way and you're trying to get a hold of somebody, if you want to leave continued messages that sound like this: John, I know you're extraordinarily busy, and I appreciate your valuable time. But if you've got 6 minutes on your way home from work tonight or the next couple of days, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Kurt VandeMotter, 214-675-4516. So leaving kind messages won't piss off somebody because you left them 3 messages, but in fact, they will get back to you. And when they do, I'm confident that they're going to give you a story about, the different things that are going on in their life right now. So don't be afraid to make numerous phone calls and leave numerous messages. Call it creative times. I mean, I used to call it 6:30 in the morning and 7 o'clock in the morning, hoping that the admin wasn't there and I could get past the admin. Using creative tools like that that can help open doors is what you've got to learn how to do, and only salespeople generally know how to do those things. What are the questions we've got? Would this be good application
not a question, but Kathy asked, would this be a good application for a bio instead of saying a resume?
I agree with that 100%. If you've got a good professional bio, it's 1 page. I wouldn't send a 2 or 3 page bio, but if it's 1 page and it's easy to read, you've had a couple of people look at it, it's engaging, it provokes additional questions. Absolutely, that would be a great use for a bio. Kathy, good point there. Thank you for that. I think the other thing that, LinkedIn, your SSI scores, and Jeff has got a speaker that does a presentation on this once a week, once a month, right, Jeff?
Yes, it'll be up in 2 weeks.
Okay. If you have not seen this presentation, Jeff Sullivan, right?
Terry Sullivan.
Terry Sullivan. Why do I always say Jeff? Terry Sullivan. He's not your twin. Terry Sullivan. I've got a very good friend from high school, Terry Sullivan, and it's not the same Terry, but Terry Sullivan does an amazing job of giving you information about how you can increase your SSI score in LinkedIn to make sure that you're getting noticed and that your profile is at the top of the class. And I hadn't ever sat through one of his presentations. If you haven't sat through it, I highly encourage you to do so. The other thing I highly encourage you to do is to make sure you got a notepad and a pen and you're ready to take notes, because he goes quick and he goes fast, but his presentations are not recorded. And so there's so much great detail and data that he can provide you. If you're not an IT and kind of an egghead, some of it might go over your head, but 98% of it is really easy to understand. And he gives you working examples of exactly how to do what he wants you to do to improve those scores and to improve your visibility. So if you haven't seen Terry's presentation and you're new to this for the first of the year, I highly encourage you to do that. Highly encourage you to do that. Yep. Jeff, I'm going to take a minute or two here because I think it's a good timing. So LinkedIn, what I used to take everybody through, and I don't because I'm not doing that many searches these days, so I don't have a LinkedIn recruiter package anymore. As you can imagine, that product is very expensive, and when you're not filling jobs, then it's a product that you really don't need to use. But it was sometimes useful for candidates to see the visibility and how we search. But what we search for is our keywords, and that is not going to change. Okay, I want everybody to understand that is not going to change. Whether it's an AI tool that's pulling out all the most important keywords from a job description and then throwing it into a script that they've written to go find candidates on the internet, it's all about keywords. Okay, and so that is not going away. You cannot lose insight or your focus on keywords, and having those keywords smothered throughout your LinkedIn profile is absolutely critical. If you have a question about where you put your contact information, you can look at my LinkedIn profile. But LinkedIn is not going away. And I don't even see any other similar products out there today that I could give you insight into that says you should make sure you're using salary.com or something else that will get clients' attention, because everybody goes back to LinkedIn. Everybody's trying to break that code so that they can get better access to and have more candidates quicker, faster, easier. And they're all going back to LinkedIn. So we can use LinkedIn to a certain degree, and then you're gonna exhaust everything you've done on LinkedIn, and it's going to be a weekly exercise of looking for new jobs, reaching out to people in target companies, building a list of people that you want to engage with, and trying to accelerate conversations and discussions. But one of the things that I want you to do is to take a proactive approach. Is a tool that I recommend to candidates that's called the prayer letter. Some of you that have attended this seminar before may have heard about it, but it's a pretty simple way to engage and to maintain contact with a lot of people. So the prayer letter, the very first exercise in the prayer letter is for you to go out and, number one, make a list of everybody in your network. So you take your LinkedIn, you go through LinkedIn and you start developing a list of email addresses and phone numbers, names of everybody that you know that you've worked with, worked for, people that have called on you in the past, people that you've met at conventions, people that have been a part of your life, people that you go to church with, people that your kids play soccer together with, people that you know. This is an active list of all those people. Now, what I would recommend is you take a week or two to make that list, and then you continue to add on, because it's going to be, you lay in bed at night and it's going to be, oh my gosh, I need to add Bob Jones to that list. I haven't thought about Bob in a long time, but he'd be a great person to network with again. So you make that list, and then the second thing that we want to do is we want to literally, it's an Excel spread list. We literally want to start calling everybody on that list, and that's a personal call. It's called the activation process. We're activating our network. So by activating our network, if you were to get that person if you were to get their voicemail, the message would sound like this: hey, Bob, it's Kurt. If you've got 12 minutes, I'd love to connect with you. I'm actively looking for a new job. And some of the target companies that I'm looking at this month include X, Y, and Z, and you give them those 2 or 3 companies. I just want to network with you because I know you're a great contact and you know a lot of people in the industry. I always enjoyed working with you, and I hope that we can connect in the next week or two. My contact information is ... Okay. So that's just a voicemail that you leave with people. But if you get them live, you're not asking, I want to make this very clear. You're not asking people for a job. You're asking them, or you're letting them know that you are actively looking for a job. Okay. It's just to make them more aware of what's going on in your life right now. It is an opportunity for you to share target companies. And if you think that Bob can help you with some of those, then certainly have that list available for, everybody that you call. It may be different for different people. So you've activated your list, and now at the end of the month, you're all done. You've called 125 people. They all know that you're looking for a job. So the second piece of this is the prayer letter, and you've all gotten this letter before. It says, read this prayer 10 times to 10 people in the next 10 minutes, or you're going to die and go to hell. Well, in the job search world, what this letter says is you take all those email addresses and they all go into a BCC. No twos, no CCs, all BCCs. And in the subject, it says great people know great people. And then in the letter, it says, I continue to look for new opportunities, and some of the target companies that I'm looking at include, and you give them a list of those companies. If you or anybody in your network has contacts with these or companies like these, I would greatly appreciate an introduction. Feel free to forward this note on to anybody in your network. And if there's anything that I can do for you or anybody in your network, don't hesitate to call anytime. I'll be back in touch in 30 days. Okay? So the key is that some of you, again, that aren't salespeople, you might be cringing right now thinking, oh my gosh, this is an awful exercise. I can't imagine myself doing it. But I want you to know that with confidence, this exercise works. Okay. It accelerates your search because now every day you have not just you and your spouse and your partner or a couple of other friends looking for jobs for you, but you've got an active network of 150 people that know that you're actively looking and they know you and they know the work that you're capable of doing. So the first month, you'll get a lot of people really sorry to hear that. I'll keep you in mind. The second month, when you send out that email, if you send out 100 notes, you'll probably get 50 or 60 of them back that says, sorry, I don't have any ideas right now, but I'll keep you in mind. As that progresses and the time progresses, the leads and the conversations and the opportunities for the introduction get better and better and better. Okay, so I highly recommend it. I can tell you numerous stories about people that have very skeptical at first when I gave them the suggestion to even think of doing this, and then they call me 4 months later and say, I just landed the best job I could have ever found and I did it in a lot shorter time than I thought I would. So I know that it works. It's if you don't like the prayer letter concept and you don't like the language of the letter, you are all smart people and you're all creative. And I wouldn't hesitate for a minute that you could find a better way to communicate or to send that note and subject out. But if it's not that, figure out another way. But you need to communicate with your network every month until you land a job because your network is your net worth. Okay. Your network is your net worth. So any questions about that or why we do that? But it's not necessarily new, but it's an additional tool that you can add to your quiver. And it gives you a proactive way about going out there. And it doesn't sound desperate, but it does get people's attention. So it says, this is Florence. Is it possible to connect with you on LinkedIn? Absolutely. Everybody on the call, feel free to send me an invitation. I'll connect with you. I don't always get it done in the first, 10 minutes after this call, but within the next few days, I'll generally get a bunch of invitations and I accept all of those and happy to help anybody I can. If it's a connection or, many times people say, can you make an introduction? There's nothing better for a recruiter than to make an introduction. And I don't do it for fee. So I did not just say I don't do it for free. I said I do not do it for a fee, meaning that if there's a company that you want an introduction to and you've got the background, I mean, I do take a little bit of time to get to know the candidate before I just send it into somebody, but there's nothing better for me to say, hey, John, we haven't talked in a year and I don't know what's going on over at XYZ company, but I'd love to get together and chat about that. In the meantime, a friend of mine suggests or requested an introduction to your organization, attaches their resume, and if you can talk to this person or have any interest in them, go for it. There's no fee attached to this introduction. I'm just hoping to make your company a little bit better if this is a position you're hiring for. So we love making those introductions because sometimes they do turn out to, well, gosh, Kurt, I hadn't called you yet, but I was getting ready to next week. We do have a couple of roles that we want you to fill. So never feel like recruiters, if they don't want to make introductions, then they're in the business for the wrong reason. But if I'm connected to somebody that you think can help you find a job or land a job or do it quicker, better, easier, I'm happy to talk to you about what that introduction would look like and to facilitate that. Okay. Jeff, what other suggestions? What other tools have we not talked about today?
Well, I think using the bio, sending your bio for any kind of networking call, I think is very, very important. making it easy for the recruiter to call you, because the recruiter, when they find you, if they find you on LinkedIn, they want to pick up the phone and call you. So making sure your phone number and at least an email is there, because you haven't talked about the percentages of in LinkedIn in-mails, but I know in the past you've talked about how like 9 to 10% of people respond to a LinkedIn in-mail, which is
Yeah,
very frustrating for you.
it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the averages are in the 6 or 7% of people reply to in-mail. So as a recruiter, there's one product that they offer you, and that's the ability to write notes to people in LinkedIn in mails. And when you're using the LinkedIn Recruiter product, you have almost an unlimited amount of in-mails that you can send. But the fact is only 7% of people reply to in-mails. So as a candidate, if you've got your email address and your phone number in your LinkedIn profile, and I'm a recruiter and I'm searching through, before I send an in-mail, if you've got a phone number or an email address, you move to the top of the class, because I can pick up the phone and call you right now and say, hey, Michelle, Kurt here. I was just going through LinkedIn and I'm looking for somebody that does exactly what you're doing. Can we talk for 4 or 5 minutes? So absolutely accelerates and gets away from the in-mail. You sparked a subject, Jeff, and that was, we didn't talk about at the beginning of the call, but the types of recruiters. So in the world of recruiting, just so I want you to have confidence. Excuse me. I want you to have confidence when a recruiter reaches out to you, to be able to ask or talk to them about what kind of recruiter they are. And I'm not talking about a good recruiter or a bad recruiter. I'm just talking about what kind of recruiter, where do you fit in the food chain of recruiting? So it's okay to ask a recruiter if you're driving and you start a conversation and they introduce themselves. My name's Terry Smith and I'm a recruiter for dot dot dot. It's okay for you in the first couple of minutes to try to figure out by asking them, well, are you an external recruiter or are you an internal recruiter? So there are in-house recruiters. And in-house recruiters, the thing to keep in mind about in-house recruiters is that they generally have silos. So a company I use as an example is T-Mobile. T-Mobile may have 100 recruiters, but they've got recruiters that are working specifically on retail sales roles. They're working on cell tower development. They're working on customer service reps. They're working for outside sales reps. They're looking for, different roles within their company. Well, generally, a recruiter will have a silo that they work within, and they could have anywhere between 30 and 40 jobs if they're trying to fill at one time. Okay. So it's just really good to know when you're communicating with an internal recruiter that, number one, they're super busy. They've got a lot of jobs. They filled this job many times, so they know what they're looking for. Okay. If you've got 50% of what the company is looking for, and you're talking to an in-house recruiter, you're likely not to get moved forward to the next role, because internal recruiters work for hiring managers and they don't want to present candidates that don't check all the boxes. Okay. So if you're getting left behind and you're working with internal recruiters, it's likely because the job description or the job requirements, you don't fulfill all of those for that organization. So then outside recruiters, there's two different types. There's contingent recruiters, and a contingent recruiter, if you were a hiring manager, let's say that you were a vice president of sales and you needed to hire 4 sales reps, you could go to an outside contingent recruiting firm and you could hire 2 or 3 or 4 companies, recruiting companies, to try to fill those sales jobs. Okay. Um, and the only person that gets paid is the recruiter that brings the candidate to the table. Okay. So early in my career, I did a little bit of contingent work, but it was really painful because I would almost rather lose money on the golf course than to work free all day. So I worked all day lining up, racing to the finish line to find 3 or 4 great candidates for the company to talk to. It's Monday. On Wednesday, I call the hiring manager. I've got a couple of candidates. I'm sending you resumes right now. Oh, sorry, Kurt. Another recruiter sent me 2 candidates that we hired yesterday. Um, I'll let you know if we've got this job open again soon. Okay. So they're working very fast. They present resumes very quickly. They don't generally get to know the candidate really, 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 really well because they're in a time crunch to get the candidate presented so they can figure out whether or not that candidate's going to get hired or not. I'm an outside retained search executive consultant, which means that companies hire me, they pay me a retainer up front, and then I'm exclusive. There's nobody else that's working on this role. Even if they've got an HR department, at that point, the HR department forwards me all the resumes that they've looked at and any future resumes that come across their desk. Okay. So I could be working on a CEO for a CEO search for a company, and I'm 2 months into the search and I've got 3 great candidates. And HR calls me and says, I think we've got a candidate that you need to consider in your mix. Even if that's the candidate they hire, I still get paid. Okay. And and our fees are based on for both contingent and retain and retained search. Our fees are generally a percentage of the annual compensation. And it can go deeper than that, and it can include other things, but that in general is the way that we get paid. So the difference between recruiters, not good, bad, and ugly, not the ones that follow up or not ghost you, but recruiters are internal recruiters, contingent recruiters, retained recruiters. If you're talking to internal recruiters that are moving fast, you better be able to have experience doing everything that they're looking for. They've got very low tolerance for candidates outside of the rails per se. Contingent recruiters, they're moving really fast. Help them do everything you can to get them your resume quickly. Make sure that it reflects the job description as most closely as it possibly can. Follow up with them. They're going to present you quickly. You're going to know where you stand very quickly. The process should move very quickly unless they get sidelined or the company delays or something that's not in their control. And then with retained recruiters, again, know that they're going to work at a little different pace. They're probably a little bit slower. Doesn't mean that slow isn't fast and good, but we're checking all the boxes and we're spending a lot of time to get to know candidates because what we're trying to do, and I think this is a good tip for candidates as well, is when I'm interviewing candidates, the company has given me a list of problems that they want to solve. Okay. That's a part of my investigation. And as I take on a search for a company is to learn about what is it that we want to try to find? When we hire a candidate in the first year, what do we want them to accomplish? What are the biggest problems that your organization is facing right now? Are you getting ready for an IT implementation? If you got high turnover, you're having a hard time getting people to come to the office, whatever it might be. And there's generally a list or 5 or 6 of those. When I'm talking to candidates, that's what I'm trying to learn is where in your career have you done that? And can you give me experience of how you did it and what you would have done differently? Okay. None of that information is on your LinkedIn profile and it's generally not in your resume. So that's the value that I bring to companies is to try to find candidates that have done the work that they are looking to have done and that they've got demonstrated experience doing that work. A good way for you to go about asking questions and learning about the companies that you're interviewing with is to learn about what are the biggest problems that they're trying to solve. What keeps them up at night? Who are their biggest competitors? Some of this you might have been able to find in research, but some of it you have to ask questions during the interview process. And as you ask those questions, it's going to make your answers and your presentation even that much stronger. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it. We're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to thank you very much for your presentation and your information. Next week, our speaker is going to be Ruth Lipsky. She's going to talk about LinkedIn tools for job seekers. It's also a really good presentation, so if you haven't seen it, please join us next Tuesday. Tomorrow, the practice interview team will be meeting in person at Christ United Methodist Church in Plano at the corner of Parker and Coit. If you live in the DFW area, please come join them. They're from 1 to 3 o'clock. They meet in person on the first, second, third, and fifth Wednesday of the month. On the fourth Wednesday of the month, they do an online session so anybody around the U.S. can watch the session. And then this Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, Rusty Wright will be with us to talk about ChatGPT for job search success. It's a great presentation. It's full of information. You can join us in person or you can join us on Zoom. And the presentation will be recorded. So if you can't join us Friday, you can go to the Career USA YouTube channel and you'll find it there on Saturday afternoon. You're welcome to join the Career DFW or CareerUSA.org LinkedIn groups. I started each group when I started the website. If you join the Dallas-Fort Worth group, there's over 16,000 people in it. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join, but I will look at your profile if you're asking to join and make sure that your profile is mostly complete. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we post new information, you'll find out about it. On the YouTube channel, click on playlist where you see that green arrow. Every video I post goes into one of 7 different playlists. And then at the bottom where you see view full playlist where that red arrow is, click there and you'll see the titles and the dates and titles of the presentation. You can go back and watch at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, you can just scan this QR code and send a blank email, or send a blank email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io, and we will get you added to our list. We only send out 1 or 2 emails a week. You'll never be spammed because I control the list. Please remember, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. All of our speakers are volunteers. Kurt's volunteers. All our other speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 17 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Kurt, thank you very much. I'll send you a link to Friday's Zoom meeting if you want to do that.
I'm going to come.
And everybody else have a great week, and we'll see you all hopefully tomorrow or Friday.